Here we are, on the lowest spot on our list is Bing. Now, Bing isn't terrible as a character, but it's just very missed potential for him because he just doesn't really do much outside of capture us on Zepho, which is inevitably just losing. There's no way out of the fight, nor winning. You just lose, and you're meant to get captured, and yeah. Not much, just basic, enemy attacks combined. Next up, we have the Nidak Alpha. The reason why this boss is not very good is just simply because it's just kind of very similar to the other Nidaks. Nothing really new to him. He did kill me once, shockingly, which none of the other main bosses did, but he didn't really do much either. Outside of Gorgara, which killed me, he didn't really do much. I shattered his health on the second attempt in like 10 seconds. He wasn't really that challenging. He was more aggressive, and once I actually paid attention to him, he was incredibly easy. Just make sure you have plenty of stims for yourself, and then this guy will be over quick. Next up, we have the second sister. She has a pretty good fight, I will admit. Zepho is a cool planet, and this is a great location to fight her. She has pretty good attacks, some are unblockables, just sprinkled in there to make it a little bit more engaging, if you will, and more challenging. But it's just kind of a give or take, because it's only to half health, until the cutscene plays where she wins. Not much really happens, shockingly. Not anything crazy, just kind of average attacks. I've done this fight multiple times on playthroughs, so she was not that hard. Since I'm only playing on Jedi Knight, this wasn't that much of a challenge. Here and there, she did hit me because I was a little bit greedy and didn't really pay as much attention to her. But however, as she is, this is a pretty good fight, just to give more abilities, unlike the tutorial, and shows simply how much stronger she actually is, and how much weaker you actually are. Just to say, like, hey, you aren't invincible, you can't just take everybody out, but, hey, but you know what? This fight was pretty good, but could have been just simply a lot better. Next up, we have the Knife Sister. Now, this fight was pretty good. I don't think it was terrible. The reason why for her being so low is you can kind of get her in a repetitive cycle. Once you use Force Though after just blocking a couple attacks, it becomes super easy for the first half of the boss fight. Nothing much happens after a couple red unblockables until you basically slice a piece of her helmet, and then she gets frustrated for you and then turns out a second saber. That's when the fight starts getting a little more challenging. That's why she's above the second sister's fight. This fight is not terrible either on the second phase. It gets harder, I'll give you that, but not much changes. There's more unblockables that give you some trouble, but you can still get her in that repetitive cycle if you know what you're doing. But I do hate that bull rush attack, I will admit. That's the only critique I have with the fight that I just would have changed as a developer, or at least pointed out that might be hard for the players to dodge. But that's about it. This fight is pretty good, just could have been a little bit better in some ways. Next up is Gorgara. She has some pretty good moves, I'll give her that, but outside of a lot of basic moves in the beginning, she doesn't really do much. She has some cool wing unblockables, and something more unique, which I do appreciate. And this is really sick. It reminds me of a lot of different games that have been associated, like Dark Souls, to this game. But I will admit, this boss has its very easy parts to it. But there are some parts that cause it to kill me once, alright? But hey, just make sure you know what you're doing for the first phase. As long as you're able to minimize damage on the first phase, you should be chillaxed until she leaves for good, hopefully. Instead, she'll just come back around and just come at you again until you go, whee! Until she, dies. After 3 times of that, the fight is over. She is very unfamiliar with her moveset, which made it hard for me to understand what she was doing at times. Which is not really on her fault, more of just the creature she is. So at the end of the day, this fight is pretty good, but just could have been a little bit more improved. Now, next up, this might be a little bit of a controversial thing, but hey. Next up is Trilla Zidari on her fight at Pagano. This fight isn't terrible. The reason why it's so much higher than most of some of the more decent fights is because the story importance. If it wasn't about the holocron, this would be near the bottom, because simply, it just kind of barely fleshes out her moveset, and it gives a little more challenge compared to the first fight. But one thing is she can actually kill you if you are autopilot, which is something, I'll give it that, but the story importance was scary because what if she got the holocron first, and how all those Force-sensitive children would have been, hunted down by Vader, turned into Inquisitors, or potentially killed. It's just terrifying to think about. And she did get the holocron, but we did get it back. But hey, this fight isn't terrible. It has its story importance. And the fear and the kind of satisfaction when you beat her for temporary bits of time is pretty cool to see the awesome ending cutscene for this. But hey, overall, this is a great fight, but it just simply lacked a lot of, a fight would have, and it's a very brief interaction. that kind of makes it gone down. If it was just a longer fight, I think this could be even higher. Next up, we have Taron Malicos, mainly the guy that says Dathomir will be your grave. This fight is really good, I will admit that. I love being able to parry in this game on Stormtroopers, so a lightsaber wielder just simply makes it better. Now, I will say, this fight was a little bit easy here and there. Not trying to be rude to the people that were stuck here on hours when the game first released. But at times he was easy, at times he was a little bit more difficult. He felt more balanced than all the other fights on this list beforehand. He kind of felt like he had a mix of what was right and wrong. Like, he had some good abilities that would push you back and prevent you from, kind of just aggroing him and just pushing him back, It just kept the fight from being too easy, if you will. It made it more balanced. I like how halfway through he does stop you with some cool force technique, and then Marin shows up to help you out even more. Then it's like a cool, you get a buff, and he gets a couple buffs as well, so it's kind of a give and take. It's a mix of both, and that's fair. But I will say this fight is really fun, just for the sake of it. It really was meant to be, I feel like. I feel like this took the most time to make because his attacks are different. They're more unique with the two sabers instead of just one Inquisitor saber. Kind of just getting spun around at your face the whole time with the Knife Sister. I like that more, and it just simply made a better fight overall. So at the end of the day, this is one of the greatest fights in the game, just for the simple reason that it just kind of tested all your skills with parries. Next up, we have Trilla Sudari, on Fortress Inquisitoris to be exact. The second encounter with her, after the Begana Vault, when she had the holocron, we chased her down, and we had our final battle with her. She has a pretty good fight, a lot of variety of attacks, and she has way more moves than the previous two fights, which is wonderful, to say the least, to show that she has the most variety as herself. But also, it is challenging in a sense because if you don't use Force Slow, then you're going to have a really hard time with her. Like on the previous runs, when I did this, entire, game, I had a lot more trouble, unlike this run when I just used Force Slow, and that really helped me. And she kind of just gets annoyed by it. But if you don't use it, I can see why this would be an extremely hard challenge, or if you're playing on Jedi Grandmaster. But lucky for me, I'm playing on Jedi Knight, and using Force Slow is optional, obviously. But it is very beneficial if you do. This fight does have a lot of cool red unblockables that are helpful, but also very bad if you get hit by it, which kind of sometimes can ruin the balancing that she does bring upon herself. So it kind of is a give and take here and there. I do admit, though, Cal has some great abilities at this point, so I think it should do a decent amount. If you have, 2 stims still, you might have a really hard time, in my eyes, at least. If you have, 4, like I did at this time, I had a decent time with her. She wasn't impossible, but she had her, things that were really difficult. And at times, she felt kind of too easy, but at times she kind of felt overly hard. It's never, a perfection here and there. It's very, iffy. Here and there it is perfect, but it's not always that way. The reason why she's at the top here is simply because she is the most difficult, most variety-based, and she has a great cutscene in the middle of the fight halfway through, and she just simply has the most story importance plus fighting. And I'll give her that. She was very challenging on first playthrough. Overall, pretty decent fight. Better than the rest on this list because simply she had a lot of variety. Obviously, at number 1 has got to be Darth Vader. At this point, obviously, it's not technically a boss fight. He is mainly just a sequence, technically from a horror movie quote. I was making jokes here with you guys, but anyways, he is really scary in the scene. I love how he just destroys Seer when she tries to kill him. It's really funny, but also just terrifying, showing how, strong he is and how truly, even when you fight him, when the game messes with you, he, just literally chokes you out in, 3 seconds flat. It really shows that this fight is truly had the most effort out of all the fights. I know I did say Taron Malicos is the most effort, but I was just referring to him as only an actual boss that you can win or lose to. This fight actually just has the most effort as a sequence as a whole, and just makes this game 10 times better. It shows that the finale can be more than just a boss fight. It can be a full-on chase scene, and that's what I like about it. Has a lot of variety in what he does. It's very scary, and it's just really cool to see him be a badass for a little bit. And I really do like at the end where BD gets zapped and then you save him and blah blah blah. It's really scary after he jump scares you behind the door. But overall, this sequence is the best in the game, hands down. Anyways, guys, peace out. See y'all in the next video. Peace out.